kidding. Thank you all so much for coming this morning. I'm Angie Newsome. I'm with Carolina Public Press. We're an online news organization, and we cover the 18 westernmost counties of the state. We do in-depth and investigative reporting and public interest reporting. And we're holding these, we call them news exchanges, all across western North Carolina. Yesterday we were in Clay County and Jackson County. Today we're here, and we'll be in Transylvania County the end of today. And by the end of today, we'll have been in all 18 counties over the last year and a half, having these very same conversations. Our news organization is a nonprofit, and we really do want to spend a lot of time listening to the community about what the news and information needs are at the local level, at the regional level, and at the state level. We feel like our news can only be deepened and improved. Our impact in the community can only be improved by actually listening to the people in our own communities. That seems obvious, but sometimes it's really a game changer in terms of the news organizations out there. So, how we're going to do this, there's a lot of you here. It's really exciting. So, if you wouldn't mind signing in so we can stay in touch with you. And then just go around, tell us a little bit about who you are, what brings you here today, and because there's so many of us, maybe try to do it in just a few sentences. I don't want to rush anyone. And then we'll talk about our organization and WCQS, and then really it is an exchange. It really is a time for you all to share information about what you think needs to be covered in the community. So we're going to be taking lots of notes. Our office is filled with flip charts full of amazing ideas from people all across the region. So thank you again. So Chris, would you mind leading us,
Sure.
Starting us off?
Chris Cooper, and I teach political science at Western.
I'm Katie Giannotti, and I'm in the library at Western Carolina University, and I'm here today because I'm passionate about public radio and WCQS in particular, and I want to see it serve the needs of our communities.
And Mary Yeomans, I'm retired from Earthlight. And WCQS is the only radio station I have on at my house. And it's all day, every day, up to midnight, up at 6:30. So what I'm here plugging for is to get the in-house garden shows back on. And even add to them, because we were pretty upset and we protested a number of ways when the former CEO zapped all of them. So with the idea of eating local food, locally produced food, it seems to me it's much more important to have local information and lots of it.
Thank you.
Plus, I'd like more jazz.
Yeah.
I'm Hetty Morgan, and I'm some of them in the library, and I'm also retired, so a combination of those two. And I've been a long time listener and contributor to WCQS, and I have also contacted the station to voice my disappointment when they did away with all the locally produced shows, not just the garden show. There were political shows about the car, about the pets, I don't know what else. And so since it's a community radio station, we seem to have gone away from the community, that it's more national. And I like the money show that comes out, but that's not, I can go on the computer anytime and listen to that. What I cannot get on my computer, if it's not on WCQS, are those local shows. So I really would like to see that. And also, I don't know, I have contributed early, so, we don't have the fundraisers, but they used to be so exciting, at least for the listeners. They might not have been that exciting to the people at the radio station. So, but there seems to be a loss of community involvement, and I would like to see that back both ways.
Thank you. Connie.
Hi, I'm Connie Hare. I live in Selva, and I retired from Southwestern Community College. And I'm on the board of WCQS, and I'm really interested in hearing what everybody has to say about this. And participated in a community forum with Katie a week or so ago, and really interested in what's going on in the community.
Thanks, Connie.
I love State of Things, David, and the noon hour to kind of get a picture of what's going on elsewhere. But I agree that we could certainly use a lot more local news.
Great. Thanks, Connie.
And I am Amy Ammons Garza. I'm with Catch a Spirit of Appalachia. We do stories of mountain folk, and I believe that that should be a big part of what is being broadcast, is to save the voices of the local people. We're now starting on our 8th year of recording. It's being archived at Hunter Library at Western. So we've saved, I can't even tell you how many voices we've saved of Western North Carolina. We cover all 13 counties.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm Claire Collins. I'm with the College of Fine and Performing Arts at Western and also with the Jackson County Arts Council. And I just came to learn more about Carolina Public Press and just to hear what it.
Thank you.
I'm Harold Sims. I operate the local cat shelter, Kathmandu. I'm best friend of cats, I guess you might say, in this part of the county. And I'm also an author that I published 4 books through Amy over here. And we've got a video that I'm trying to promote. One of the cats was a cat that was bullied by the other cat. This was mostly in my mind, but I've got a video out that Kevin tames the bullies, and it's about a 4-minute teacher's guide, and I'm having a hard time promoting it. And it's for preschool through about K2. Cute pictures. The song, I wrote the song myself, the lyrics. Arthur Steed, who was with him up in the band years ago, living in the West Coast now, did the music for me and put it onto the disc. And I'm trying to promote it in the schools so we can get kids to. Most bullying movies have children involved, and the kids that want to be a bully learns how to be a better bully watching the movie. Whereas this way, there is no bully. It's named just the cats bullied Kevin, and then Kevin didn't fight them back. He just went along with it, and he tells them everybody's different in some strange way. We got to live together in this shelter and the helter skelter, And it's really cute, and it's 4 minutes long, and the tune is great.
Thanks,
And
Harold.
I'm trying to promote that, and I've also got a story about a cat in the shelter, and it sort of depicts how a cat shelters life from a cat's point of view.
Great. Thank
And,
you.
I'd like to pass that on.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Jennifer Turner-Lynn. I'm the Assistant Director at REACH of Macon County. We serve REACH and Jackson County, and we're a domestic violence and sexual assault agency.
Thanks, Jennifer, for being here.
Hi, I'm Denise Drury-Homewood. I'm Director of the Fine Art Museum on campus across the street. I'm also here representing the Barton Arts Center, and I'm a sustaining member of WCQS. Love those guys. I'd like to see more exhibition coverage, exhibitions in the Western region. We've got a lot of galleries and museums, and I'd like to see that be a part of the program.
I'm Jerry Cody. 17 years ago, we very fortunately discovered a home here in Cullowhee, and we're great supporters of WCU and particularly WCQS and Dave Hurand, who doesn't know me and doesn't know my wife, but he was the voice is what keeps us tuned. We don't watch television very often, so brings you up.
I'm Donna Cody, and as I say, as Jerry said, we love living here. So we like hearing about local things so that we can sort of plan activities. I'm semi-retired, and Jerry's retired, so knowing what Tony Kiss, quick, gotta get him on, and things like that. So that's important to have local information. And I've called in about snakes a few times, and David helped me with that. So anything that has to do with what's going on locally, tent caterpillars. I never even knew what they were until a couple weeks ago. That kind of thing, to keep people that relocate here that didn't know what from their ancestors, what this is, what that is, how to handle it. Gardening, I did a lot of mistakes before that. And the only other thing, I'm not a big classical music fan, so I would love more jazz, like light jazz. We listen late at night, Paul Oakeshott and all that kind of stuff. And I love listening, if I wake up on the hour at night and I get BBC News, I love to hear their spin on the news, and then 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. spin on the news. So we, as I said, we're great supporters, and that's all we listen to. In fact, when we moved here, first we had to get an antenna because that didn't work. So now we can listen online and don't have to worry about signal.
That's great. Thanks so much. David, you want to introduce yourself?
My name's David Hurand. I work for WCQS. I think that it's important for you to understand why I'm here with Angie. When Carolina Public Press started, she asked me to be on the advisory committee and explain what the mission of Carolina Press was, Public Press. And it seemed like a logical partnership for us to be involved with Carolina Public Press, so I was honored that she asked. So I became a member of a very small group of people that started from the ground floor of this organization. And then it evolved into a full-fledged board and with not-for-profit status. The reason I was interested in WCQS is a very small station with a very small staff, and we cover a lot of counties, just as Carolina Public Press does. And it's very difficult for us to truly cover the counties, all the counties we want to cover, because of our size and the lack of personnel. So I've always been committed to creating partnerships with other news organizations, with other institutions like the university. There are people here that I've interviewed countless times because I think they add a lot to the station. And I think what Carolina Public Press is trying to do, I'm really worried about American democracy because of the demise of newspapers. We need newspapers, we need an informed electorate and an informed public, and Carolina Public Press is in what I hope is a movement to reestablish people's interest in in-depth reporting and investigative reporting. So I'm proud to be on the board, and I'm also very proud to be working for WCQS, which is, again, a station that was built because of community interest and community support. You mentioned fundraising. Obviously, we're in the midst of a fundraiser right now. But there are lots of things we can talk about as it relates to the station. But it's really great that there are so many people there, so thanks for coming.
Yeah.
My name's Mike Murray. I'm the superintendent of Jackson County Public Schools, and I moved here 5 years ago, so I've lasted longer than some people predicted because I wasn't from here. I will tell you that I am a mountain boy. So my daddy is a preacher in Madison County, so I grew up in the mountains. But if you're not born in Jackson County, sometimes you're reminded of that quite a bit. And I do want to see some changes in the public school system. We're moving in the right direction, and we have a lot of competition out there. We have charters, private, and homeschoolers, and I do a very conscientious job of not putting down the competition. We're all about choices. What I tell our folks every day is we need to market ourselves, we need to make sure we're the best game in town and we're part of something special, and that we get that across every day, that we love your kids and we want you to pick us as the provider for your educational services. So we're upping our game with marketing this year, and I'm really moving toward, although the last time I said this publicly, I was really beat up when I said I wanted to see a year-round schedule. It's not really a year-round schedule, it's a balanced schedule, and what I want to see is us not taking time off and having a rite of passage and lose ground in the summer. So been here 5 years, we'll see how I'm getting more vocal about that, and we're going to start our first summer school academic camp from grades 3 through 12 this summer, and it'll be 2 to 3 weeks, and that's just the first step as to getting a balanced schedule in all our schools. So I'm very proud of Jackson County Public Schools and our relationship with WCU and SCC. We have the best business partners in the world, and we certainly have all the resources that we need. We want to make sure our children appreciate where they're at. We want them to have a sense of place. We want them to be proud to be mountains, and we want to make sure that we try to keep a lot of them home if we can create opportunities for them and give them what they need, or allow them to have the choices where they can go in where they want in the world. So very excited about leading our school system.
Phil, would you mind?
Hi. My name is Phil Hare. I live in Silver, and I've been a fan of CQS for many years, and I'm so glad that y'all are getting out, because you know, there is something more in Western North Carolina other than Buncombe, Henderson, Haywood, and Madison counties. So, you know, we can find something might happen over here every once in a while. It's good. And that's why I'm just really glad they're going to expand the coverage. And, you know, like one thing somebody mentioned earlier, I'll go back a long way listening to CQS. On Friday afternoon, they used to play Broadway melodies and jazz, and that goes back a long way.
Yeah, you're lying.
But anyway, that was great. I enjoyed it, and I made a special point because I was listening to that particular program. But I think we're going in the right direction. There's always things we can do to improve. But thank you for being here, and I hope you can expand your coverage the same way as I hope the CQS, because you've got the transmitters around, can get out and cover the western part of North Carolina in a more full fashion.
Thank you, Phil.
I'm Christy Martin, and I live in Tuckasegee. I'm a grandmother, and retired. And I'm really delighted that you're out reaching out today, because I think that one of my former bosses many years ago was on the planning committee for WCQS. That was really, at least I remember him going to a lot of meetings in Nashville about public radio. I've been a fan and supporter.
Hi, I'm Molly Schwartz. I remember meeting Barbara Sayer on the campus of UNCA when WCQS first started. A pioneering woman who all of us should admire greatly. I would say that something I would like to hear from WCQS is a revisit. My husband's an historian, so I'm biased. But, you know, go back and look at our Southern Highlanders. You can have a historian from Western, UNCA, Appalachian, local people that will tap into that rich resource of our history that is so meaningful to those of us who have moved here from elsewhere. And I would also suggest that everyone in Asheville that is associated with CQS or tell me again your
Carolina Public Press.
Take the Silva Herald. You will see that there are mental health issues that this young woman here has talked about. A story that was in the Silva Herald recently that obviously needed to be taken care of before a tragedy happened. You will see education issues that this superintendent has tapped into. The Silva Herald does a very good job of bringing things to the fore, and I would assume that other papers that are far-flung do a similar thing. I also want to commend David Hurand, who has been doing yeoman service with the absence of other announcers on the CQS. It seems as though you're working 24/7, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Rob Young. I guess I won't give you my WCU affiliation because of what I'm about to say. My wife and I have been long-time sustaining members of WCQS for longer than I care to admit. And I will echo the sentiment that I'd love to see some of the local programming return to WCQS. You know, I thought that shows like Conversations, I can't remember who hosted that program, brought local color alive in Western North Carolina. You know, we got to meet local people, local personalities. We we learned so much more from that. And there just are no other outlets for that kind of expression, right? I mean, that was it. And you know, maybe we don't need a show like that for an hour every single evening of the week, but that kind of programming for me was really important. And you know, love Kai Rizdal or not, it's not quite the replacement for that local programming that we used to have. So I'd love to see some of that return. And for you guys, I would really like to see more coverage of democracy issues. I would like an exploration of how gerrymandering works, how it impacts the political system, how it dilutes votes, how unrepresentative the current legislature is of the demographics of the state of North Carolina, how other states are doing things differently, and they are, in setting district lines. I spend a lot of time in our state legislature and on Capitol Hill, and everything has ground to a complete and utter halt. And helping the citizenry understand how and why that's happening, I think would be very useful. And I know it sounds a little bit like a political hot potato, but there's some real education to do on those kinds of issues. And I don't think that, this is obviously opinion, but I don't think most North Carolinians realize the extent to which they've been disenfranchised by the way the political system operates and the way district lines are drawn. And other states have found other solutions to that issue. And talking about that, doing stories for a local audience on what those other solutions are would be really interesting.
Thanks, Rob. That's a good segue. Is anybody else? Anybody interested? Oh, Hurand, please. Yeah, the man behind the camera.
Yeah, thank you for being here and conducting this forum. Great. I'm the executive director of the Canary Coalition, a local nonprofit organization, actually a regional nonprofit organization. And something that I see as lacking is coverage of the work of nonprofit organizations in Western North Carolina. It's such a vital part of the community, and many of the things that are addressed in the General Assembly and by regulatory agencies and by the government in general are a result of initiatives of nonprofit organizations that never get the credit for it. You know, you hear about legislators passing various measures and other things happening, but you don't get the story of the grassroots effort behind that went into those things happening. And it's really important because we work in the dark, basically, and we depend on the support of the community for our existence, but much of the community doesn't even know what we're doing or how we're doing it and how they can get involved. And so it's really important for a major news outlet like WCQS to report on that. It's an important part of what's happening in today's world. And I agree with people who say we should be covering more local news and the idea of teaching civics and how the government works and what people need to do in order to influence government policy. That's something that I just don't see happening in the news media right now, including on WCQS. I'd like to see.
Thank you, Hurand. Well, I wanted to, I appreciate all your input and your ideas, and I feel like we have a little bit, some more time to dive a little bit deeper into some of those issues. And I want to tell you a little bit about who we are, why we've partnered with WCQS in these listening sessions, and then really open it up to you all to talk about the issues going forward that you feel our news organization, WCQS, can address. Carolina Public Press was launched in 2011. I'm from North Carolina originally. I'm from Davie County, and my mom's family. I feel like we all have to do this, don't we? We have to say like our connection to Western North Carolina. My mom's family's from Mitchell County for many, many generations. And I really love North Carolina, and I love journalism. And I felt that about in 2010 that there needed to be a solution to the reduction in in-depth and investigative public interest reporting in Western North Carolina. And so we started putting together the plan to launch an online news organization, an online news service to do just that. And so what does public interest news mean? It means healthcare, education, crime, transportation, state politics coverage, those issues that need someone to go a little bit deeper, to go beyond headlines and sound bites, to really ask some hard questions, some deeper questions, to provide information, and then to go to do the investigative reporting. And so we launched in 2011 to do that, and we cover 18 counties. Originally that was the 11th, well, almost all of the 11th congressional district. Right now that doesn't make a lot of sense, and we have some cultural connections among all these counties. And so since 2011 we've produced about 1,200 stories. You can find them all online. And we also have partnerships with news organizations across the state. WCQS is one of those, WLOS-TV is another, the Charlotte Observer is another, Mountain Express. So you can see some of our work appearing in other news organizations too, because what I hear over and over again, as David has expressed, is that staffs in the traditional news organizations are declining. We all know this. They're under a tremendous amount of pressure, and so what we want to do is to add to the conversation and not repeat what the traditional for-profit press is doing, and really provide some of that in-depth and investigative reporting. And so understanding what's important to the community is really a vital role that, I mean, we just have to know that. And so these forums have been, these community conversations have been really illuminating. They've already made an impact in our organization. We've been reporting about Polk County, the water situation there, where they're trying to sell their water system to a South Carolina district. That idea came from one of these forums. So it really does, you all coming to this is really quite important, and we really appreciate your time and your willingness to talk. And in terms of, one thing that I like to tell people that's somewhat of a surprise is that right now we are the only news organization in Western North Carolina with a reporter in Raleigh covering state politics for Western North Carolina. Thank you, honey. It's one guy. We need a crew of people down there. But because he was there, he went to a committee meeting and saw on a slide that there was going to be a fracking study held in Western North Carolina. He happened to see that because he walked into this committee meeting, and we were the ones who broke that news. So you cannot replace having someone in Raleigh covering the state legislature. And we've really committed to doing that, and we have a bureau there to do that. And lots of our news partners pick up that news. We quote Chris all the time.
You should read it anyway.
But we have a lot of friends in the traditional press and the nonprofit press like WCQS, and we're really happy David's on our board and that they're joining us with some of these listening sessions. David, do you want to talk about CQS anymore?
Well, we can talk about WCQS for a long time. I've been there a long time, and the station's been through lots of changes over the years. We have a new general manager right now. He worked for CNN in London and Reuters in London, and for the last 15 years he's been in Nebraska working there, and we're off to a very good start. He's been on the job about a month. The station is a very healthy, small public radio station that is trying to serve a very large area, and it's in terms of the way the news department has evolved. Right now we have 2 part-timers that are helping morning you hear Jeremy Loeb's on the air during Morning Edition. The guy's incredibly talented. He's a great host, but he's a part-time employee, so he's there from 5 to 9 and then he leaves. And then in the afternoon, Ellen Chicklin's on the air during All Things Considered. She also is a part-time employee with lots of television news background. And it's just, both of those people are a joy to work with, so that has been an incredible improvement for me, because for a long time I've worked pretty much on my own. We had a great host and full-time employee in the mornings for a long time. Greta Johnson was there, not a long time, she was there about a year. Super talented person, and I'm not surprised that she left after a year. Before that, we had another person who was there for a while. Duncan McFadden was on the air in the morning. He was also full-time. In both cases, they left WCQS for more money and larger news departments because they're just starting their careers. And I actually, I mentioned Barbara, it would not be a good idea to call her up and tell her, but she knows that I encourage them to do that. I encourage them to apply for those jobs. Granted, I didn't think they would get those jobs, but they did, which I think is a credit to WCQS. That's something that we should be proud of. The people that have come through the station that have gone on to really great jobs. Tom Grazer worked for WCQS a long time ago. He became one of the top editors in the Gannett chain. So there have been people that have passed through the station who are much younger than I am, who are really building their careers. In my case, I was building my career with WCQS, but I was really committed to staying because I have 3 children. I have 3 boys, and my wife now works in Cherokee, drives to Cherokee every day from Asheville. And what a blessing to drive here today, because it's incredibly beautiful. We take it for granted sometimes. Maybe some of us don't. I do. But driving here today is just spectacular. It really is. We live in a really beautiful place. And we also live in a beautiful place with lots of great stories. The around school calendar is a very good story. That's the sort of thing that helps me know what's going on. And also the other thing is, there's so much information coming in all the time. There's no way that Angie and I can keep up with all that. So it's important for you to add Angie's email list to your list, and if you see something or you hear something, or in my case, just send me a little note. And if I don't respond, I encourage you not to be discouraged by that. Just keep sending ideas around, and because we cannot possibly know all these things that are happening, and it's incredibly helpful and does spark, and the ideas that you send may lead to something else, a different idea. So, and just finally, I just so you know, I really appreciate your comments about the station very much. Many of the things that you have alluded to or said directly, I'm appreciative of that. Some of the decisions that are made by the radio station, I don't agree with. I'm an employee of the radio station. There are programs that I love doing that no longer exist. Just so you know, that those are not my decisions. Okay. So, just so you know that. But public radio is very important to Western North Carolina. And the partnerships that we have, when you mentioned the Silva paper, we have a working relationship with Smoky Mountain News, Mountain Express, Asheville Citizen Times, obviously with Carolina Public Press. Some of the reporters that I've met, like John Ellison is a fantastic reporter. And if you haven't read any of the work he's doing, you can just check out what he's doing, because he is providing some really important stories. Having someone in Raleigh is invaluable. It used to be the Citizen Times had people in Raleigh that lived there. They don't do that anymore. They haven't done that in years. And I understand why. It's expensive. So if you don't think we're responding to what the information you're sending us, let me assure you that we're reading them and we're thinking, how do we do that? How do we cover those stories? Like I see Avram here. I'm well aware of what the Canary Coalition is all about, and I have been for a very, very long time. I have known Rob Young a very, very long time, and so, but there are a lot of things that I'm totally unaware of. The last time I was in Jackson County was to be here with Gerald Green, who was the planning director. And I interviewed Gerald because I was starting to do a story about steep slope and the rewriting of the ordinance in Jackson County. So I interviewed him, I interviewed some other people, and then, of course, he's gone, he left. And so the story sort of has been pushed to the back. But when I see that sign coming into Jackson County, 6% grade or 7%, there's a sign right there on the road, and how much of this county is on a really steep grade, and there are a lot of development issues. A lot. So land use planning, education, there are plenty of stories for us to cover. It's a question of time and so anyway, thanks for being here. This is really great.
Yeah. And speaking of that, all the story ideas, you all think about going forward. What are some of the issues that are facing Jackson County that we should start thinking about now? When we go to all these counties, there's a lot of things that we're hearing a lot. Mental health is huge. I hear that. I've heard that almost 18 times now in almost every community that we go to. Political reporting, you hear about that. I hear.
Can I just
Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
There isn't a single major news outlet in the state anymore that has a full-time environmental science writer. We used to have that. ANO, Charlotte Observer. That's it. That's really a gaping hole in coverage both at the statewide and the local level that you guys could help fill.
What particular issue? Any
I
of
mean,
them?
I mean,
Yeah.
I could give you a laundry list, but the fact of the matter is that all of the science and environment reporting that we get in the state of North Carolina now is either coming off a wire from McClatchy or from Gannett or something like that, or it's being written by someone who is part-timing the issue. And yes, they're all sincere and trying to do their best. But it's really difficult to get good, detailed, in-depth reporting, especially when, I talk to these folks all the time, and 90% of the time is spent just trying to explain the science. And from my perspective, and it's obviously a somewhat biased perspective, but that really is something that we're missing statewide for some of the major issues that are both local and statewide issues, like spills into rivers and things like that. If we don't have science or environment reporters who already have the background to cover those kinds of issues that can't go directly to the heart of the matter, then that makes that kind of reporting very problematic. You just mentioned the steep slope ordinance. That's a science environment issue basically. Because to really wrap your heads around that, you have to understand the slope stability and mapping and all the politics of the North Carolina Geological Survey and how they got shut down when they were trying to map slope stability. So, the more that you guys can do to task someone on staff with being the science and environment, and maybe you have a staff member already who is a science environment reporter, but boy, that would be a tremendous service to the state to add that capability to really have some focused science environment reporting. The two go hand in hand, and there's so many things you want.
That's great. Yeah, we've been reporting about the remanagement plan of the Pisgah and Nantahala National Forests for more than a year now, and we'll be doing for another year. We're working right now on a project on who owns our water, who the private and public companies are who own water in Western North Carolina, and the Polk County scenario, and what's happening for seems like decades in Asheville has really sparked that idea of going forward, how municipalities are going to deal with aging systems, major debt to improve those systems. But the fact is that they need to provide drinking water to cities and towns. So that's not exactly what you're getting at. And I do agree. I think the investment in journalism and in full-time journalism is an important one. It's hard to do it part-time. It's hard to do it with freelancers. But that's how we're having to operate. A lot of our news organizations are having to operate now.
Of course, trying into the same thing is the fracking issue. You know, everybody says, I'm against fracking, but why are you against it? You know, you get the one little line on it, but it doesn't tell you it's not the fracking, it's the pollution of the water in the ground. The pollution, that's the problem with fracking. But unfortunately, that message doesn't get out as you should.
Yeah.
Angie, I mentioned this at the WCQS Community Forum, but I'll say it again for your benefit. I think that in our county for sure, and I'm sure it's true in a lot of the western counties, poverty is a problem.
Yes.
Our unemployment rate has gone down, but I think there's a lot of underemployment. And as an example, the Community Table, which is a nonprofit organization that's a soup kitchen and food pantry in Silva, their numbers have gone up, the people that they're serving each month, not down. So I think poverty is still a big issue here in the West.
Represented most by jobs and the requirement, or the, I don't want to say stress, that's kind of loaded, but people relying on community services, social services.
Exactly.
Is it expressed in any other ways? I mean, perhaps in the education system, or
especially
other
with child health issues, our obesity rates are unacceptable. And you know, for the first time, I have to stand up in front of groups and say your standard of living for your child won't be as high as what you've had. That's a shame. And part of that, even though we're doing more with ASAP and really farm to school initiatives, and I'm getting ready to tackle the whole recycling issue, and we're going to be being more green than ever with our system. The childhood obesity rates, we do a lot with gathering BMI data, but we don't do anything with it. And then it's expensive for parents to feed their child healthy. It's easier to go to McDonald's and plunk down $1. And when you see the poverty, and you know, I try to get out as much as I can, mainly because not just because I want to be visible, because I'm part of the community and I have 7 children, and so it's, and when I'm out and I see the average person struggling and wondering how they're going to pay their bills, that overshadows everything. And for them to go even to our wonderful tailgate markets and other things and get food, that it's so much cheaper for them to do the fast food. And so we're really attacking that. I'm with the West North Carolina Healthy Kids Initiative, and we're doing a lot of different things there, but it's almost like spitting in a forest fire, because you can't really, I don't see a lot of systemic changes that need to happen with families, and yes, kids can put pressure on them. I remember when we started with seat belts, I'm a motorcycle rider, so I hate a seat belt, and so you won't make me right. Well, let your kindergarten kid look up and say, Daddy, put your seat belt on, and you'll put it on. So you go eating that Pop-Tart in the morning, and your 5-year-old says, my teacher says that's not good for you, we should be doing this. That's where a lot of the change does happen. So we're really hitting hard with our kids, trying to teach them healthy lifestyles. So
I would say in our agency in particular, there is an intersectionality between the education system, homelessness, poverty, a lack of healthy food options, for example, affordable housing, transportation. I mean, in particular with REACH, because we provide shelter, we are in a unique position that we have kind of a lot of different areas that we're having to look at outside of the intimate violence and the cycle of violence that victims and their children and families experience regularly. I think that for us, going back to what was said earlier, I actually coach, I do all the spirit teams in Macon County, and one of the things that kind of a parallel to that is that nonprofits are their worst cheerleaders. In general, nonprofits, because they are so busy providing service-oriented services, that they rarely have time to talk about the good things that they're really doing and how they're partnering within the community to meet those particular needs. And so For example, in Macon County, Habitat and REACH have a very strong working relationship. We have a great relationship with our school system. We go in and teach 5th through 9th grade students probably for about 6 months out of the year through their health and PE classes about violence prevention. Those are things that you don't ever hear about. What you hear about is when someone dies because of domestic violence, or you hear about sexual assault, but you don't hear the other things that we're doing to prevent those issues. Macon County is building a new shelter right now. Those are huge initiatives supported by our community. And with Macon County providing services and the intern here in Jackson County, we're really guests in this community, kind of going back to what you said, having to link back. Well, we do that all the time here because we're not from Jackson County, so we really are guests in the community. But there is a task force of local people who are working to reestablish an agency. But the need has to be, like, the community needs to know there is a need, first of all.
Yeah.
And they need to understand what that looks like. We need to understand why not having a shelter in Jackson County is problematic on a huge level. There's no shelter within 45 minutes of Macon County any direction, homeless or otherwise.
Say that again?
There's not a homeless or domestic violence shelter within 45 minutes any direction of Macon County. So if you have a child who's in 5th grade in Jackson County and the mother needs to leave because of domestic violence, where are they going to go? So they're going to have to come to Macon County if they want more permanent emergency shelter. How is that beneficial for the child who has a support system and teachers and has a network? Maybe the parent has a job here in Jackson County. How are they supposed to get a job in Macon County? Maybe they don't have transportation. Those are all issues that the community needs to be hearing about, because our agency is talking about them clearly, because we're struggling with, we can't just build a shelter here. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's also another piece that the community needs to understand. You don't just open an agency. It doesn't work that way. The state won't even fund an agency until somebody's been providing services for a full year. That's something a lot of people don't understand and don't know. I think it's just, well, just open an agency. Just open an agency. Well, it's not that simple. So I think for me, again, going back to nonprofits, we need to know more about what nonprofits are doing in our local communities, whatever county that is.
Thanks, John. I'd like to add to that. I think you pointed out a very important issue in the western part of the state, and that is within counties we seem to collaborate and partner fairly well. But cross-county or multi-county collaborations don't seem to fare as well. Macon has been wonderful in picking up this from Jackson because Jackson couldn't support theirs. But and other community colleges serve multiple counties, at least Tri-County and Southwestern does. Haywood only has one. And there's some collaborations that occur across county lines in the community college system because of the service area. But outside of that, I think it's so much more important for us to sort of blur those lines regarding certain issues that need attention that are pervasive across all the counties. And, make that a regional collaboration in a lot of ways. And I know there are a number of things that are happening, but it doesn't seem to be at the forefront. It's not the first thing people think of, unfortunately, until disaster strikes.
And I will say, I'll do a plug-in for Habitat. For example, Habitat, I don't know how many people know, but Habitat in Macon County has now taken over 3 or 4 other additional counties in the western part of the state. That's huge. I mean, that's a huge undertaking for one executive. They have one executive director who now is covering, 3 or 4 different counties to provide housing to low-income individuals. And I think that's the kind of information that local folks, need to know, because I think a lot of times you just assume. Well, we assume we have our own standalone Habitat. We assume we have our own domestic violence agency. Well, no, we don't, and we need to talk about why that is and what can we do to improve that situation in whichever county that is occurring.
I don't know how much, sort of picking up on that all these councils of government, right? So Land to Sky, Southwestern Commission. It seems like a lot of the government reporting, and this is not a comment on Carolina Public Press or CQS, but reporting in general, people rarely go to the COGS. And I think you're right, there's all sorts of regional issues happening. Here's a board that does it. I think for a while, right, people were scared to talk about it because they thought it was part of Agenda 21 or something. Yeah. But I think the reality is you've got folks that are being paid by your tax dollars who help govern us regionally, and we don't know a lot about them or what they do.
That's a good idea.
Even the students that I teach in political science, you say, what about a career working for a council of governments? What the heck is that? So I think this regional
The whole
piece,
regional aspect is.
it's sort of a big shift, but one I think that, and I don't quite know how to deal with this, but obviously this room is pretty white, and I think trying to figure out a way to suss out the stories that are of interest to people of color in Western North Carolina, obviously, and to the Hispanic community in Western North Carolina, and I think it's really important to have these listening sessions, but also to realize that the folks who can sit at a coffee shop at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning aren't completely representative of the voice of the people that live here. And I think it's almost turned into a joke, right, of the kind of people that listen to NPR and listen to CQS, and I think trying to figure out a way to get those kinds of stories. I have no silver bullet for how to do that other than just to be aware.
I just want to plug something about bridging those county lines, something that the College of Fine and Performing Arts at Western Carolina University is going to do in March, is hold a leadership initiative for all of the regional, multi-counties. I think it's at least 7 or 8 counties in the far western part of the state, arts leaders from counties across the state, bringing them together to have a roundtable discussion on what issues face arts organizations, across the state. And arts organizations, of course, provide, visual art exhibits or performances, but we also kind of serve as education mediators, another opportunity to provide after-school activities, school groups. A lot of times we provide food assistance, when we have, large events where we bring communities together. I know Stokoe Valley Center in Graham County is an amazing facility, and they do a lot for the community. So bringing all of those folks together in March to have a roundtable discussion will be a huge step forward in kind of crossing those county lines, and our new dean, George Brown, is going to be putting them together. So great.
Well, we've reached 10 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of your time and that you've all got busy schedules, and it is a strange time of day. But I really do want to say that we hope that this conversation hasn't started and ended here. We really do want to build a relationship with you all. We do want to hear from you, but we also want to come back and talk more. David, do you have anything else you would like to say?
It would really help me if you have the time just to send me an email with your contact information.
David, they signed in, and I'll give that to you.
It's on the sheet.
It's right here.
You'll see.
How can we find out what you've learned from other counties?
That's a good point. And
I mean,
I think
sure
what
that they have similar,
yes.
unique.
Post something with
I was thinking about that at the end of today. Well, our organization will have done 19 of these listening
We'd like to
sessions.
hear about it.
Yeah, and so I was thinking of, well, one thing that's happening is that we're going to write, our organization is writing a white paper just about this process for a news organization and what worked and what didn't work, so other news organizations can learn and do it and mimic it and replicate it. So we'll be writing that white paper at the end of the year, but that doesn't answer your question about what the issues are. And I think what I'll do is I'll write it up and share some photographs, and we're going to start again. We're going to start doing the second round of these in all the counties. So we'll set those and let you all know when those will be. 18 counties is a lot. I mean, I've put several thousand miles on my car, but it's really interesting, Connie. There are things that are going on. People feel like this is only happening, whatever this is only happening here, but gosh, we hear similar things. And there are things that are only happening in, I'm not trying to say there's no uniqueness in every county, but I think that where our organization and WCQS potentially can really focus on the things that are happening regionally or across county lines, and because that maybe that can have impact on more than one community.
Or issues that are common to several counties. There
Yes.
might be 4 or 5 issues to the far western counties that's
Yes.
peculiar to them
Yes.
that may not affect the others, or vice versa.
But we hear poverty, we hear mental health, we hear domestic violence, we hear issues about transportation. We hear those, I don't want to say all the time, but frequently. And it's how we approach that and how we tell those stories. Education, people are really concerned about education.
Like these other gentlemen, my ancestors go back 150, 200 years in the mountains. And when you grew up in the mountains, your family either farmed or you had a little business in the town. And then later on you started getting a few factories. But most of maybe your classmates, they wound up going up north because you could get a good job when they got retirement and all. We didn't have that in the South. Now, as the farming industry has declined and a lot of the mills have gone, we're creating this poverty. You don't have a minimum wage. And so I think that we need to look out, how are we going to address it? These people just sit here and say, very low wages, if anything, without a minimum wage. And what are they going to do to get a job? And that's what we've tried to do a lot of times, is give the incentive through what it used to be Advantage West and other things, to get people in to locate, to create jobs in these industries. But once again, if you don't have the education and all, so we need to, it's a long-term project. It's just not something we can address today to feed them today. But what are we going to about feeding their children down the road, their grandchildren and all that, if people stay? And so I think, to me, if you start off with poverty, that addresses a lot of your domestic violence, frustration, even your mental issues. It all gets back to that one. To me, that's sort of one problem now.
Well, something that Jennifer said, I wrote this down, I think this really is pertinent for us as a news organization, is that the community needs to know there is a need, first of all. And I think that that's why we exist. I mean, that's why I became a journalist, is to help tell those stories. So I really do appreciate all your time. And please feel free to contact us, and we'll keep on discussing issues that are important to you locally, countywide, regionally. And we'll call you for quotes.
I have one quick request. The WCQS has an advantage because we're in your bedroom, in the kitchen, in your living room, in your car, in the bathroom, wherever you may be. I'm a person who is, I operate every day on a certain routine. Many of us do. What I would appreciate you doing is add Carolina Public Press to, when you open up your computer, I know that I go through lots of different sources of information, and if you would bookmark or check out Carolina Public Press, incorporate that into whatever you're doing with your computer, that would really help us all out.
And you'll learn a heck of a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Connie.
I love it.
Thank you, Connie. Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate
I
it.
want to tell everybody that this video is going to be available on the Canary Coalition webpage, and we'll send out the link. We'll send it to David.
Yeah, please do. That'd be great, Adeline. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, please keep in touch. And there's my